All right, so I have a challenge for you in this lecture. So we want to take the things that we learned about the map and the things that we learned about finding the user's location and merge them together. So I want you to make an app that will track the user's location. So when they open the app for the very first time, it will show where they are on a map. Use one of those cool little red markers. And then if they ever change the location, update that marker to be wherever it is that they are. Okay, so this is a challenge for you because I believe you have the tools that you need to get all this done. There might be a few things that you have to Google, but you can totally do this. So as a challenge, go ahead and hit pause now. Go do it on your own. Okay, so hopefully that went well for you. I'm going to walk you through just in case you had ran into some issues or had questions, just want to see how I did it. And so we're going to start a new Android Studio project. And I'm going to go ahead and call this map and location demo. Okay. We want Android at least 23 there. And then I will start with a Google Maps activity because I want access to all that awesome map setup, right? Like it creates the fragment and it's all there. It starts the code about making an annotation. Just great stuff there. So step number one for us is we've got to include our API key. So you could go back to our previous project, or for me, luckily I have this API key just right here ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. Okay, and I'm going to come back to our project. And remember that I'll just put this right here. Now it's important to remember that if you're using your key here, you've got to make sure that you've either updated it with your new app package that you're working with here, right? Like if you go to Android apps and you do all this stuff, but I just recommend putting on none so that you can use this API key for all your different Android apps. Again, when you push to the app or to the Google Play Store, you want to restrict it to just your app, but for the time being, this is okay. All right. So once you've got that in place, let's go ahead and move back to our project here. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to make sure that we have connected is the permission in order to use the map. But in fact, or not a map, a user's location. But when we start with an Android or a Google Maps activity, it automatically asks this for us. So it puts that inside the Android manifest. So we don't even have to worry about that. So that's pretty nice that we can just close out of that and not have to worry about it anymore. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do is set up our classic location manager and our location service. So we're going to go up here, or listener, excuse me. So we're first going to make a location manager that we'll call location manager. We're going to make a location listener that we'll call location listener. Okay. So now that we have access to those, we want them to be all set up inside of our onCreate method here. So in the onCreate, first we'll set up the manager. So we'll say location manager is equal to this.get system service. And inside of here, we want to do capital context dot location service. Okay, and we need to make sure that we cast this appropriately by saying that this should be a location manager. All right, next step for us, we want to update or set up the location listener. So we'll say location listener is equal to a new location listener, and this adds all that code there for us. So inside of here, rather than doing a log, let's sort of mix things up a little bit. Let's go ahead and use a toast instead. So we'll just go ahead and type capital toast dot make text, and first what we're going to provide is our maps activity dot this, so we make sure that it's going to the correct place there. So that's a little bit different than we've done with some toasts. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our current location, and we are going to take that location, turn it into a string. That's what we want to show in the toast. Lastly, we can decide how long we want this toast to show for. So I'm going to do length short. That's my favorite. And I'm not going to forget this time. I'm going to do a dot show on the end so that this toast actually shows up. That, I swear, every time I make one, I think, well, didn't that work? Well, because I never showed it. That's what the issue was. So with that in place, after we have the location manager and the listener all set up, and we'll need a semicolon there, then it's time for us to see if the user has given us permission, and if not, we need to go request it, right? All that good information. So something that I do want to point out here is, let's say a user is not using the, at least Android Marshmallow, which is what we've required here, or at least is what we're building here. What we can do is we can do a cool little if statement where we say if, and the thing that we're going to check here for is what version of Android they're running. So we're going to say capital build dot capital, and this is all caps, version dot, and we want to get the SDK int. So we're going to say if this thing is less than 23, meaning that's the version we had chosen when we created this project. They're saying if it's less than that, we don't have to go through the whole process of manually asking for the location. We just have to say, hey, location manager, go get updates and all that good stuff, and it's going to automatically ask the user. So this is where we could say location manager dot request location updates, and we'll go ahead and pass in our location manager dot GPS provider, comma, we'll do 0 and 0 because we want all the updates, and then we'll pass in location listener. Okay, so we've got all those pieces in there ready to rock and roll. And let's see here, call, so check, so we've got to make sure that we have the permission check. So, and before we do all of this, we're going to do this in a separate step here. So we're going to go ahead and delete that just for a second here. So we're going to do an else in this situation. So we're going to say if we weren't able to go ahead and get this, what we want to do is we want to check and see if we've gotten permission. So we're going to come down here and we're going to say if, and this is where we'll do our check. We're going to say context compact dot check self permission, and inside of here we're going to pass this, and then we're going to give the manifest dot permission dot, and this is where we want to access the find location. So we're going to see if this thing is not equal to the permission granted. So we're going to say package manager dot permission granted. Look at that, it already had it sort of queued up for us. So good, we get that check there, make sure that everything's ready to rock and roll. Then if that is the case that we didn't get permission, we need to go and request it. So we're going to say activity compact dot request permissions, and we'll go ahead and provide this. Okay, and then with that, we're going to ask for the manifest dot permission dot, and this is where we want to get to the access find location. Excellent. And with that, excuse me, we did this a little bit out of place. So before we do this manifest stuff, this is where we want to say we need a new string array, and we'll do our opening curly bracket there for that, and then our ending one there. Then lastly, we just need a number for this. So we're going to put in the number 1. Okay. So we've got that there, and we're going to provide an else situation. So on this else, it's basically saying, hey, if they've already given us permission, then we just want to go ahead and say, you know what, go ahead and request the location services, all that good stuff. So we'll go ahead and paste that there. All right. So now with this in place, let's go ahead and give our app a quick run. All right, so we have our request showing up here, but I'm not going to say allow just yet. I'm going to come back to our code, and I want to write the code for if someone is, has provided the yes or no answer to that question. I'm hopefully not going to squash my opportunity here. So we're going to type out on request permission result. Okay, so this brings in that huge method, and what we're going to do inside of here is first I'm going to show you how you can work with that request code if you like. So right, we had given this the request code of the number 1 right here, so we can do a quick check on that and just say okay, if request code is equal to the number 1, that means that we can move forward because we're working with the appropriate request, because this could be asking for all different kinds of permissions, and these request codes is how we keep track of that. Again, we only have 1, but this is probably just a little safe thing to do. Next thing that we want to do is see if they said yes to us. So we're going to say if, let's get that all set up. And we need grant results dot length is greater than 0, and we also want to check and see if grant results at the 0 position, meaning that first object in the array, is equal to package manager dot permission granted. Okay, so this does our checks to see if they've gone ahead and given that to us. We also need to do another check just like we have down below here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Let me go ahead and give us some space so we can actually see what we're doing. Okay, we're going to see if we can get this. We need to change this to see if this is equal to permission granted. So if the permission has been granted, then we are now safe to say, let's go ahead and check the location. So we're going to say location manager dot request location updates. And again, we'll just say location manager dot GPS provider 0 0, and we'll put in our location listener. Okay. So that's got everything that we need inside of there. Let's go ahead and we're getting some errors here. I'm wondering if I don't have enough ending curly brackets. There we go. Looks like that fixed the situation. So let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see if we can get an update about this information via a toast. So we'll go ahead, wait for the app to open. I'm going to wait until this shows up with the app in the background because I don't want to get all punked out again. Okay, we're going to try loading this one more time. Yes, restart the app. And we don't even have to open up Logcat since we're doing this via toast. Okay, so for whatever reason, this just absolutely refuses to show me the app until I say allow for this. So we'll go ahead and do that, and let's open up the app here. So we've called this map and location. Oh, although it doesn't, the names are too long there. All right, well, we've written the code that it should work. I always botch that. I guess I should have just waited to run it until I was ready to try that all out. And if you ever want to get that situation again, you can always delete the app from your phone, and that'll do that. But let's go ahead into our menu here, and on the emulator here, let's go ahead and send some latitude and longitude. And look at that. It shows up right there inside of the toast, just like we were hoping for. Excellent stuff. Okay. So that's showing up. That's, definitely a step in the right direction. But what we want to do is wherever the user's location is, we want to move this little marker to be in that location. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and I guess something that I should also mention, we don't want to run this code with the location manager and everything until we actually have the map ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and down here below where we have this code, I'm going to copy all of this, or I guess cut it rather, and I'm going to paste it down here because we don't want to try and update the user's location right before the map is ready. So it's just kind of a nice thing to do there. But instead of us, when we have the user's location rather than doing a toast, let's go ahead and do the code of making one of these markers. So I'm going to cut this marker code, and we'll just go ahead and paste it right here. Now we're not doing the Sydney thing, so I'm going to remove that comment from here. But basically, we still need to make a latitude and longitude here, lat lang, and I'm just going to call this user location. Okay, and rather than it just being a static, always -34 and 151, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the location object that we have, and I'm going to say location dot get latitude and location dot get longitude. So this was something that I thought maybe if you were doing this as a challenge, you probably would have had to Google this part to say, hey, how do I get the latitude and longitude from location? But it also may have just been intuitive enough to say, oh, maybe it's somewhere in this location object. So let's go ahead and copy this user location so that we update it here and it zooms into the correct place. Rather than saying marker in Sydney, it's probably more appropriate if we say something like your location so that we can go ahead and see that. So with that in place, let's go ahead and hit run here. And we'll wait for this to pop up. Okay, so here comes the app, and let's send in the location like this, and boom, look at that. Apparently we're right at the top of Kazakhstan and Russia, but let's put, maybe if I change longitude to 0, boom, all of a sudden, look at that, we're in the UK. Hello, Rob. Let's go to 00, see what that's like. Oh, we're over here somewhere in Africa. Let's maybe provide something like 10 there. Look at that, moves us up just a bit. And we could do 20. That's pretty cool. So we have a little bit of an issue right now, and that's that we're always having these new locations show up time and time again, which we don't want. And so our way to fix that is we need to clear the map before we add something. So we're just going to add a little bit of code right here that we can access this mmap. So we're going to say mmap.clear, and that basically just gets everything out of the map. So we'll go ahead, test this out, make sure it's all okay. All right, and we'll wait for this to open up. Let's see, there's our app. So I'm going to send a location like that. I'll move it down 10, and look at that, it deleted the old one, moved us to the new location, and that's really good. So that's all great, but there's still one more issue, and that's, you might have noticed when we opened the app for the very first time, it didn't show any location. And that's because, it's waiting for one of those updates and stuff. So what we can do is we can get the user's last known location right when the app opens up, and we can use that in order to say, hey, okay, they've given us the information. Let's go ahead and grab that. So the code that we would write for that is here inside of this else statement, right? Assuming that we have the permission and everything's ready to rock and roll. This is where we would want to go get the user's location and do all this stuff. So we're going to make a new location, and we'll just call this location, and this is going to be, well, I guess rather than location, let's be specific. This is the last known location, okay, and this is going to be equal to we're going to access our location manager dot, and on this we want to do get last known location, and inside of here we've got to say that we want it through the GPS location manager dot GPS provider. Okay, so that gives us the last known location, and then at that point it's really just the same code as clearing the map, adding this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it down below, and instead of location we'll use last known location. So we could have gotten away if we had said last known location or named it location, but I think it's probably good to be clear here about what it is that we're working with. And let's go ahead and check this out. So we'll run this on the app, and this is important. We want to see what it looks like when we open it up for the very first time. And look at that, it had used our last position, but now we can go ahead and update things, and I'm going to see if I can't get us into the US. Let's see, I'm going to try -50 here. Oh, we're practically there. Let's do maybe like -80. Let's get a little bit more west here. So that'll get us in the US. Now we just need to up our latitude maybe to like 50. Oh, too high in Canada. Okay, we'll come down, and look at that. We are in, what is that, Illinois? Let's do like -100. Bam. All of a sudden we're in, I don't know where we are. Let's do 120. I want to see if I can get us in California. Look at that. I got us in California, maybe on the border. I'll do -121 just to make sure. Now we're probably at like Google headquarters or something like that in Northern California. Anyways, I really enjoy playing around with the stuff that I make if you haven't figured that out already. Okay, well, hopefully you enjoyed this. I have one more location skill that I want to teach you, and then we're going to go make this awesome hiking app that's going to tie it all together. But one more new skill for you to learn coming in the next lecture.